He seized power in a blaze of defiance, but what came next shocked the world. At just 34, Captain Ibrahim Traoré became Africa's youngest leader, not just to govern, but to challenge the very order imposed by the West.
The president of the Patriotic Movement for Protection and Restoration, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, was sworn in on Friday before the Constitutional Council during a formal hearing. Ibrahim Traoré is now present transitional head of state and supreme head of the National Armed Forces. I swear before the people of Burkina Faso and on my honor to preserve, respect, uphold and defend the Constitution, the Charter of Transition and the laws, to make every effort to guarantee justice to all inhabitants of Burkina Faso. The Charter's Article 4 stipulates that the term of the transition president ends with the investiture of the president resulting from the presidential election planned for July 2024. After swearing in, Traoré promised to stabilize the nation. No sacrifice will be too great to take this country out of the situation in which it finds itself. So, our commitment is for a return to peace. And our compass will always be the people. That is what will guide us throughout these 21 months. Our objectives are none other than to breathe new life into all our compatriots afflicted by this conflict. It is also to envisage endogenous development, relying only on ourselves. Last month, Traoré toppled Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henry Sandaogo Damiba. Damiba himself seized power only in January, forcing out Burkina's last elected president, Roch Marc Christian Kabore.
In a world of puppet regimes and foreign influence, Traoré has become the symbol of resistance. Across the Sahel and beyond, crowds chant his name, murals bear his face, and nations whisper about his bold vision. But is he a liberator or a ticking time bomb? This is the story of the coup leader turning global tables and the revolution he's igniting.
The children of Congo have been dying for years. Several other conflicts, such as in Sudan, exist on the continent. We would have liked to see the African Union generate the forces and all the necessary strategies to support these states so they can regain peace.
The man who dared to defy the West. When Captain Ibrahim Traoré seized power in Burkina Faso in 2022, few outside the region had even heard of him. But in the dusty streets of Ouagadougou, something electric was happening. Traoré, just 34 at the time, wasn't your average military man. He emerged from the ranks not just with a gun in hand, but with a vision that would upend decades of post-colonial subservience to Western interests. Burkina Faso, long treated as a pawn in France's geopolitical chessboard, was about to flip the game. While the West cried coup, ordinary Burkinabe cheered in the streets, waving flags and chanting his name. It wasn't about politics, it was personal. The people were fed up with leaders who bowed to the IMF and caved to Paris. Traoré tapped into a deep hunger for dignity, sovereignty, and African pride.
And to other stories, it has been nearly 3 years since Captain Ibrahim Traoré took on the reins of leadership in Burkina Faso, and there is a speculation in Western media of the type of government that he runs and if it's a democratic one. The charismatic 37-year-old has skillfully built the persona of a Pan-Africanist leader determined to free his nation from what he regards as the clutches of Western imperialism and neo-colonialism. Now, after seizing power in a coup in 2022, President Traoré's regime ditched former colonial power France in favor of a strong alliance with Russia that has included the deployment of a Russian paramilitary brigade and adopted left-wing economic policies. This included setting up a state-owned mining company requiring foreign firms to give it a 15% stake in their local operations and to transfer skills to Burkinabe people. The rule also applied to Russian miner Nordgold, which was given a license in late April for its latest investments in Burkina Faso's gold industry. As part of...
And then came the real shock. He started kicking out the French military presence, closed down French media outlets, and called out Western hypocrisy on global stages. That move didn't just echo across the Sahel. It resonated from Johannesburg to Bamako to the streets of Haiti and Harlem. This wasn't just a change in leadership. This was a man planting a flag, metaphorically and literally, saying, "Africa deserves better." Ibrahim Traoré wasn't content being a local reformer. He was fast becoming a symbol of something much larger, an anti-colonial rebirth for the 21st century, taking on terrorism without Western boots. One of the boldest moves Traoré made after taking the reins of power was shifting the approach to Burkina Faso's terrorism problem. For years, Western nations, especially France, had poured troops, drones, and military advisors into the Sahel region. But the results? More instability, more death, and more distrust. Traoré had seen enough. He wasn't interested in playing the proxy war game anymore. Under his leadership, Burkina Faso began withdrawing from military partnerships that hadn't delivered results. Instead, he focused on homegrown solutions. He armed local defense volunteers, restructured the army, and reconnected security forces with the rural communities most impacted by terrorism. Critics in the West said it was risky, but on the ground, the tide was turning. Attacks in some key regions dropped, villages previously abandoned came back to life, and local fighters, now feeling like stakeholders in their own security, fought harder than ever. The West scoffed, but Traoré's model started drawing attention. Mali and Niger took notes. Meanwhile, Traoré didn't stop at the battlefield. He targeted corruption in the security sector, redirecting funds that once disappeared into overseas bank accounts toward food, ammo, and better training. The message was loud and clear. Burkina Faso would defend itself on its terms, not under the watchful eye of a foreign power, but with the spirit of a people finally trusted to fight for their land. For Traoré, the battle against terrorism wasn't just military, it was moral, and he was winning, one liberated village at a time, throwing off the colonial yoke. The ghost of colonialism loomed large over Burkina Faso. French military bases, French media dominance, French currency. Traoré didn't just challenge that reality, he bulldozed it. One of his most controversial and celebrated decisions was cutting military ties with France. No more French soldiers dictating terms. No more silence when France failed to act during terrorist raids. Traoré's administration demanded accountability, and when it didn't come, they showed the French the door. That boldness spread fast. He nationalized airwaves, booted out French propaganda channels, and called out Western diplomats by name for meddling in sovereign affairs. But perhaps most revolutionary was the currency battle. Like many West African nations, Burkina Faso uses the CFA franc, a colonial-era currency controlled by France. Traoré publicly questioned the logic of having a national currency printed in Paris. Though a full break hasn't yet materialized, the tone is set. Economic freedom is next. He inspired conversations in Senegal, Benin, and Ivory Coast, places where such talk was once taboo. The younger generation rallied behind him. For them, Traoré wasn't just a politician, he was a liberator. His speeches, filled with fiery rhetoric and fearless critique of neocolonialism, were played in classrooms and market stalls. And when he raised the Burkinabe flag high, saying, "This land is ours, and ours alone," people believed him. Traoré is not walking softly, he's marching forward, boots grounded, back straight, with a generation rising behind him. And that march, it seems, won't be stopped by sanctions, think pieces, or backroom diplomacy. Champion of Pan-African unity. Traoré's influence didn't stop at Burkina Faso's borders. He quickly aligned with other young leaders across West Africa who were also fed up with Western interference. He embraced Mali's Assimi Goïta and Niger's Abdourahmane Tiani, forming what some call an emerging Sahelian bloc. Together, they've withdrawn from ECOWAS, the economic community of West African states, accusing it of being a puppet of Western interests. Traoré has called for a new era of Pan-Africanism, not just in slogans, but in action. Joint military drills, shared intelligence networks, and discussions on a common Sahelian currency are all on the table. His speeches echo the legacy of Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's martyred revolutionary, but with a modern twist. Social media is his battleground. TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook light up every time he speaks. Young Africans from Congo to Cameroon repost his words like gospel. Traoré, who grew up watching Africa get sold short by its own elites, refuses to repeat that history. Instead of bowing to World Bank reports, he's quoting Amilcar Cabral. Instead of cozying up to Europe, he's talking trade with Russia, China, and Turkey. To the West, it feels like betrayal. But to millions across Africa, it's a long overdue realignment, a pivot away from dependency and toward true collaboration. For Traoré, Pan-Africanism isn't nostalgia, it's the future. And in his eyes, the continent will never rise if it continues to kneel. So he stands, and by standing, he's pulling others up with him, building Burkina Faso from the ground up. What makes Traoré's popularity so enduring isn't just his defiance. It's the fact that, under him, Burkina Faso is changing. For years, the country lagged in infrastructure, education, and healthcare. But since taking power, Traoré has prioritized real development, not the kind that looks good on paper, but the kind people feel in their daily lives. Roads are being rebuilt, schools in rural areas are reopening, solar energy grids are lighting up remote villages, and all this is happening without foreign contractors bleeding the treasury dry. Traoré insists on local labor, local materials, and local oversight. He's also investing heavily in agriculture, making Burkina Faso more self-sufficient in food production, subsidies for fertilizers, new irrigation systems, and a push for organic farming are reshaping the countryside. Farmers once forgotten by the capital now feel heard. In the health sector, mobile clinics have reached previously isolated regions. Vaccination rates have increased. Malaria nets are being distributed not as foreign aid, but as a government initiative. The message is clear. Burkina Faso will no longer wait for charity. It will build its own destiny. While Western media often focuses on the tensions and military optics, the streets tell another story. There's a sense of momentum, of purpose. Traoré has made governance feel tangible, not abstract. He doesn't hide behind bureaucrats. He visits work sites, eats with laborers, and holds town hall meetings. That boots-on-the-ground leadership style has transformed him from soldier to servant. And the people? They're responding by showing up, speaking out, and building alongside him. A new kind of African leadership. Traoré represents a new archetype of African leadership. Young, bold, and unapologetically rooted in the continent's best interests. He doesn't crave handshakes at the G7. He isn't dressing up for Davos. He's focused on reshaping what it means to lead in Africa. Traoré has called out the performative leadership of past generations, those who wore tailored suits but answered to foreign banks. In contrast, he wears military fatigues and answers to no one but his people. His authenticity is magnetic. There's no polish, no pretense. He doesn't pretend things are easy. He speaks bluntly about Burkina Faso's struggles and then rolls up his sleeves. That transparency builds trust, and it's why his popularity continues to soar, despite the challenges. Critics in the West dismiss him as a populist or strongman, but to millions, he's the blueprint. An African leader who leads from the front, not from a luxury hotel in Geneva. He takes questions from students, not just diplomats. He reads African literature, not just Western policy briefs. And in doing so, he's rewriting the story. No longer must African nations rely on pity or permission. Under Traoré's example, they can claim power on their terms. It's not about isolation, it's about independence. It's not anti-West, it's pro-Africa. That subtle but crucial distinction is what defines Traoré's revolution. And as the world watches, unsure whether to fear or admire him, he's doing exactly what revolutionaries do, lighting fires of change in places the world forgot to look. From dusty battlefields to global headlines, Ibrahim Traoré isn't just leading Burkina Faso, he's rewriting what leadership means in a post-colonial Africa. To some, he's a danger to Western interests. To millions, he's hope incarnate. Whether hero or heretic, one truth stands tall. Traoré has awakened a new consciousness, one that questions, resists, and reclaims. His journey is far from over, and the world is watching every step. If this is a new chapter for Africa, it's one penned in fire, defiance, and unshakable resolve. The coup leader has spoken, the people have answered, and history is taking note.